It was night. 8 men were sitting together in an empty room of a small house. The only pieces of furniture were a simple wooden table and 8 chairs. The only light came from a lamp on the table. One of the men was reading a book. He held the book close to the lamp, so that he could see the words on the pages. There was also a 9th man in the room. He owned the house. He was lying on the table, covered by a black sheet. The 9th man was dead. The house was quiet. Outside, there were the sounds of birds and insects in the trees around the house. Visitors from the city often noticed these strange cries and calls. But the men in the room took no notice of these sounds. They heard these sounds every day. 7 of the men were farmers and fishermen. They worked in the fields and rivers every day of the year. Their faces were rough and had been tanned from the sun and wind. They were wearing hats with broad brims. The man with the book looked different from the others. He wasn't wearing a wide-brimmed hat. His face was smooth, intelligent, and handsome. He looked like an educated and important man. He was a detective. All of the men were here this evening for an important job. An investigation was taking place in the room. The men had come to look at the dead body on the table. They had to answer this question. How did this man die? The detective was reading a diary. It belonged to the dead man. The detective and the 7 men were waiting for a witness to attend the dead man's investigation. Suddenly, they heard a horse galloping on the road. Someone was riding quickly toward the house. The horse stopped outside, the door opened, and a young man walked in. "I'm late." "I'm sorry," he said. "We've been waiting for you," said the detective. "We must finish this job tonight. Robert Grant must be buried tomorrow morning. Where have you been?" "I went to the telegraph office and sent a telegram. I've written a report about Robert Grant's death. The report will be in the New York newspapers tomorrow. I'm a reporter. I write stories for the newspapers," said the young man. "You're not here to tell us a newspaper story. You're here to tell us what happened to Mr. Grant. You must tell the truth. You must swear that you'll do this," said the detective. "Yes, I'll tell you the truth. But you might not believe me," said the young man. "That's not a good start," said the detective. "Is your newspaper report different from the story you're going to tell us?" For a moment, the young man looked angry. He said, "I've come here to tell you what really happened. I promise that I'll tell you the truth. Everything that I say to you will be true. You can read what I wrote for the newspaper. These are the true facts. This is what I saw, heard, and did. The report isn't fiction." "Let's begin," said the detective. The men took off their hats. The young man raised his right hand and began to speak slowly and clearly. "I swear before God, I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth," he said. "What is your name?" asked the detective. "William Morgan. Age, 29. Did you know the dead man, Robert Grant?" "Yes, I did." "Were you with him when he died?" "I was near him." "Tell us what happened. Why were you with Mr. Grant, and what did you see?" said the detective. "I was visiting him. Grant and I were good friends. I live in New York, but I often came here to stay with Grant. We hunted birds and animals in the forest, and we caught fish in the rivers. Grant and I went hunting and fishing together many times, said Morgan. Tell us what happened on the day that Mr. Grant died, said the detective. We left this house at sunrise, said Morgan. We wanted to hunt turkey. We took Grant's dog with us and we both carried shotguns. Grant told me, there's a field of wild oats over the hill. There are many good, large turkey there. They'll be good to eat. So we went to the field. But we found something bigger than turkey. What do you mean? Did you find an animal? Asked the detective. Yes or no, said Morgan. I don't know what kind of animal it was. But I saw the oats moving in the field. Something was coming toward us. I couldn't see the animal, but I guessed that it was big. Grant didn't say anything. He lifted his gun and aimed it at the oats. Morgan stopped speaking and looked outside the window. Please continue, Mr. Morgan. What happened next? Said the detective. I pointed at the moving plants. I said, Robert, if that's a deer, you won't be able to kill it with a shotgun. You'll need a more powerful gun-A rifle. But perhaps it's something bigger than a deer. It might be a bear or a lion. But Robert said nothing. He just aimed his gun at the oats and stared. I began to be afraid. Our shotguns wouldn't stop an angry bear or a lion. Mr. Morgan, you say that it was a big animal. Do you know the difference between a bear, a lion, and a deer? Said the detective. Yes, I do, sir, said the young man quickly and angrily. And that's the strangest part of this story. I saw the oats moving, and I heard something coming through the plants, but I couldn't see what it was. A big thing was coming toward us, but I couldn't see it. Did you speak to Mr. Grant again? Asked the detective. Yes, said Morgan. I shouted, What is it? But Grant didn't reply. The animal or thing was coming closer, and Grant got ready to fire his gun. Suddenly he said, It's that damned thing. He was terrified. Did Mr. Grant know what it was? Is that what you believe, Mr. Morgan? Asked the detective. Yes, sir. I believe that Grant had seen it before. Then he fired his gun, and I heard a terrible sound. It was the scream of a wild animal. And did you fire your gun too? Asked the detective. No, I didn't. I couldn't. The smoke from Robert's gun was in my eyes. I couldn't see where to aim my own gun. Then suddenly, Grant dropped his gun and began to run. He left you? Asked the detective. Well, I was surprised, but I didn't have time to think about it. Something knocked me to the ground, said Morgan. What knocked you down? Asked the detective. Well, I didn't see it, but it was soft and heavy. It moved very fast. And then what happened? Asked the detective. I heard wild screams near me. They were like the sounds made of dogs fighting. Then I saw that Grant was fighting. He was on the ground, fighting for his life. Fighting what? Asked the detective. I don't know. I couldn't see anything or anyone. But Grant was on the ground, and there was a strange movement in the air around him. I don't know how to describe it. It seemed as if the fight was happening underwater. Few times I couldn't see one of Grant's hands. Sometimes his head disappeared. Then his whole body moved again, said the young man. And did you try to help Mr. Grant? Asked the detective. Of course I did. I ran toward him. But I found him like this. Morgan pointed to the dead body on the table. And where was the animal? Asked the detective. I don't know. I only saw the oats moving again. The thing, whatever it was, went into the woods. My friend was dead. I came into town to get a police officer. Very well. We'll examine the body, said the detective. He lifted the black sheet off Grant's body. Then he removed a handkerchief that was tied around the dead man's head, keeping his mouth closed. The other men looked closely at him. Robert Grant's throat had been torn open. There were many terrible, deep injuries all over his body. His clothes were soaked with blood. Gentlemen, you've heard Mr. Morgan's story. You've seen Mr. Grant's body. What shall we write on the death certificate? Did a wild animal kill Mr. Grant, or was he murdered? We must decide, said the detective. The 7 men went out of the room and spoke together quietly for 3 or 4 minutes. William Morgan turned toward the detective and said, I see that you have Grant's diary, sir. Have you read it? Does it tell us anything important? I've read it quickly. No, it doesn't tell us anything about the cause of Mr. Grant's death, said the detective. The 7 men came back into the room. One of them stood in front of the detective and said, We believe that Robert Grant was killed by a mountain lion. Thank you, gentlemen. Everyone can leave now. Mr. Grant will be buried in the morning, said the detective. That was the end of the investigation. But it was not quite the end of the story. William Morgan was a writer. He wanted to read Robert Grant's diary and write a story about his friend's death. He stayed in the town after Grant was buried. A few days later, Grant's property and belongings were sold. William Morgan bought the diary. Robert Grant had been a lonely man who had written all his thoughts in his diary. But he had not always written days and dates in the diary. Some of the pages in the book were torn, and others were missing. This is what Grant had written before his death. October 3rd tonight. I was looking at the stars in the sky above the hill. Then something strange happened. Someone or something moved between me and the stars. The stars suddenly looked like a pool when you drop a stone in the water. Am I going crazy? October 28th, it's been here again. It moves around the house. Now I keep my gun beside me always. Does this thing only come at night? Today I saw footprints in the soft ground, near the house. What's happening here? Am I going crazy? October 7th, I shall not leave my home. I will not run away because of this thing. But it might make me crazy. October 9th, I've invited my friend, Morgan, to stay here. I'll say nothing. Perhaps he'll find an answer. Perhaps he'll see the thing too. Can the dog see it? I'm sure that the dog hears it. It hears things that I can't hear. Can the dog see things that I can't see? Perhaps that is the answer. If there are sounds that men can't hear, are there colors that men can't see? Is the damned thing a color that men can't see?